Hello, my name is Paul Henry, Security and Forensic Analyst for Lumention. Welcome to our Patch Tuesday update for October 2010. When you sum it all up, this is clearly the biggest Patch Tuesday ever. Simple as that. Really, it's all trick, no treat for administrators this October. Who needs ghouls and goblins for Halloween when you have monsters and mayhem from software vendors? Today, Microsoft released one of the largest patch loads we've seen to date. 16 patches for 49 flaws, 4 of which are critical. In addition to Microsoft, we have Oracle's patch release for 81 flaws. Red Hat issued 2 repatches as well, which address flaws in the kernel that they originally patched back in 2007. However, it seems these flaws have been lingering for the past 3 years and have found their way back into the codebase. Apple has also announced a patch of a file sharing issue in OS X, which could allow a remote hacker to access a share without a valid password. At least security administrators have Adobe off their hands this Patch Tuesday. Adobe accelerated their patch schedule a week and pushed out a critical patch last Tuesday, encouraging users to quarantine 25 vulnerabilities in Reader and Acrobat for Windows, Mac, and Linux. Now, this followed Adobe's early release for the critical Flash vulnerability that was actively being exploited in the wild in September. Now, one less patch today doesn't necessarily mean less work, as administrators also may have to address Ubuntu Linux, their Maverick Meerkat release, which had its regular 6-month update released on Sunday with version 10.10. More than 130 vulnerabilities total is spooky indeed, and if not managed correctly, they will certainly have a massive impact on corporate productivity. Even if managed correctly, workday interruption is simply unavoidable. These updates will require a restart, shutting down computer systems for a period of time. In some instances, this can take up to 20 minutes. Now, there's no rest for the weary when speaking of security administrators, that is, as all of this comes in the heels of patches or new versions for the most popular browsers, Mozilla, Chrome, and Opera, all of which have been announced just since last Patch Tuesday. Perhaps once Halloween time has passed, things will slow down a bit, but if organizations still fail to put the proper preventative measures in place, vulnerabilities will haunt them forever. Now let's look at the Microsoft details. For critical vulnerabilities, we have MS-10-071, the cumulative security update for Internet Explorer. We have MS-10-075, vulnerability in Microsoft Media Player Network Sharing Service that could allow remote code execution. We have MS-10-076, the vulnerability in the embedded OpenType font engine that could allow remote code execution. We have MS-10-077, a vulnerability in .NET. It's an issue that could allow remote code execution if you happen to be running the .NET services. For important vulnerabilities, we have MS-10-072, vulnerabilities in safe HTML that could allow information disclosure. MS-10-073, vulnerabilities in Windows kernel mode drivers that could allow an elevation of privilege. MS-10-078, vulnerabilities in the OpenType font format driver that could allow an elevation of privilege. MS-10-079, vulnerabilities in Microsoft Word that could allow remote code execution. MS-10-080, vulnerabilities in Microsoft Excel that could allow remote code execution. MS-10-081, vulnerability in the Windows Common Control Library that could allow remote code execution. MS-10-082, vulnerability in Windows Media Player that could allow remote code execution. MS-10-083, vulnerability in the COM validation in the Windows Shell and WordPad that could allow remote code execution. MS-10-084, vulnerability in the Windows Local Procedure Call that could cause an elevation of privilege. MS-10-085, vulnerability in SC Channel that could allow a denial of service attack. For moderate vulnerabilities, we have MS-10-074. That's a vulnerability in the Microsoft Foundation classes that could allow remote code execution. We also have MS-10-086, a vulnerability in the Windows Shared Cluster disks that could allow tampering. Details for other vendors. Oracle, as mentioned earlier, released patches for 81 vulnerabilities. Since the last Patch Tuesday back in September, we've seen patches on all versions from all popular browsers. That would, of course, include Mozilla, Chrome, and Opera. Red Hat also repatched 2 flaws in the kernel that they originally patched in 2007 that found their way back into their codebase. Apple patched the file sharing issue in OS X that would allow a remote hacker to access a share without a valid password. Adobe has released 2 security bulletins so far in October, APS B10-21 and APS 10-22, affecting multiple Adobe products. Customers with these applications are advised to move to the latest versions of the following: Adobe Reader 9.4, Adobe Acrobat 9.4, Adobe Air 2.0.4, Adobe Flash Player 10.1.85.3. In addition to the Flash Player update, another browser-based vulnerability was patched in mid-September with the QuickTime security fix released by Apple. Affected customers are advised to apply the following: Apple QuickTime Player 7.6.8. That concludes our Patch Tuesday update for October 2010. Happy Halloween, and thank you for listening.